So I want to try and convince you of three things. First of all, that waving goodbye to the recession is premature. This recession is going to last considerably longer than perhaps most of us realize. There's a perception that China can save the world, that 1.4 billion people going out and buying lots of flat-screen televisions can somehow lift us up of this slowdown in consumption that we're now facing. And it can't. China's domestic consumption will not save the world. If you look at total consumption in the US and Europe, $20 trillion in total, and here's Chinese consumption at $1.9 trillion. So even if it grows at 10% a year, it's going to be a very long time before it catches up to anything like the volumes that we exist in Europe and the US. Secondly, the economic change that took place in 2007 was not a bump in the road. It wasn't a small economic change. It was much more fundamental and explosive than that, because a lot of pensions are going to be cut. Government spending will be cut. So incomes will begin to go down while prices of commodities and food and water and oil go up. So what do people do? In the West, they have to sell the assets they've got. And so we'll see deflation in asset prices in terms of property prices and real estate prices. Commercial real estate will continue to go down as economic activity finds its new normal. Thirdly, that the path that you've been on for the last 10 or 20 years is now fundamentally changing. The strategies that you need for the way ahead have to be different in almost every case. We've got, in the last 30 years, used to the idea in the West that there's only one way to compete in business, and that's the laissez-faire, free market approach to the world that most of us have grown up with. But that's not the only way to compete. And I think we're about to learn an ideological battle from the Chinese in particular, that there's a different way to compete. Now, I think what we're going to see in the next 18 months is a lot of rhetoric on the part of politicians in Europe and particularly the US saying that Chinese companies compete unfairly. And I want to say, no, they don't. Chinese companies compete differently. They have developed a different model, and who knows, perhaps a better one. It's certainly going to be much more cost-effective than the Western model. And to succeed in the future is going to be much more complicated. It's a maze to get to the money, and you're going to have to swim against the tide or do something different from the rest of your competitors if you're going to be successful. And that's really what I want you to think about for the next 2 days. Thank you very much.